Hi, I'm Ash from Being Swenglish, and it's Friday, so that can only mean one thing, right? It's Friskvård, which is my regular series of random facts about Sweden, educating not just me, but also hopefully some viewers that didn't know about these elements of Sweden, the lovely country that I live in, and that many of you also live in or are looking to move to. If you like these kind of videos, then hit that subscribe button below, because there's a whole range, a whole playlist of these facts, so you can go and have a lovely recap on them all. Anyway, today we're talking about what's called the wellness allowance in Sweden. This is a really, really good perk, a great benefit not many people are probably aware of. It's not offered by all employers, so check with yours first. But basically, if yours have signed up to this, they can provide their employees with an allowance of up to 5,000 kroners per year. That's about £450, so that's really good. But it's not just given to you entirely in cash. It's a tax-free allowance. So basically, it's an expense that you can buy something, and we'll come on to the what you can buy later. But you buy it, submit the expense to your employer, they process it, and they don't charge income tax on it, so they deduct that and then they pay it back to you in your salary. So that's really, really nice. However, of course, it does require some more work from your employer, and hence why not all employers offer it. This is a government associated perk, and the activities that you can use in this scheme are regulated by Skatteverket, which is the tax agency. There's actually a really good link of all of their activities that are permitted and not permitted on their website, and I'll put a link to that in the video description here. Now, there are a few issues with this. You can't use this allowance to buy equipment, which I think is a real shame, because you don't necessarily need to be subscribing to a club or a membership to gain wellness. I could go and buy myself a paddleboard, and that would give me lots of wellness and exciting fun. So unfortunately, it's not used for equipment. It can only be used for the activities that we'll cover shortly and paying for accessing those activities. It also can't be used for personal membership association fees. Now, what they actually define as that is slightly unclear, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the small print on the Skatteverket website. So what can you claim? Well, there's a big, massive list of them, as you can see. But for example, the highlights acupuncture. I was very surprised to see that on there, because I believe that's an alternative medicine and not really proven to actually do anything. But it's on the list if you want to go for it. Apps, including for yoga or fitness, I was really impressed to see that, because, for example, I use Adidas Running, which is Runtastic, and I can subscribe to that and bill that. So, you know, apps that encourage you to get out there and do some exercise, that's really, really good. Sauna, very surprised to see that. Very strange, I think, that some of these activities are listed as no, excluded, and yet you can sit in a sauna. But it is wellness, and it makes you feel good, doesn't it? Interestingly, for the wrestlers out there, wrestling is on the list. So if you're desperate to do some wrestling in 2021, then you can subsidise that under this allowance, as well as cheerleading. That's not one quite I've considered before. But for those of you out there that want to run around, jump and dance and do a bit of singing, cheerleading is an option. As is scuba diving, which is an amazing hobby. I did that for many, many years and trained up to be a rescue diver and really enjoyed every minute of it. As well as golf. Now that's good. There's a big golf course just around the corner here. So lots of options there in Sweden. Sweden has a ton of golf courses, very relaxing sport as well. Cold baths is on there. Now, I probably don't really need to pay for that. As you probably noticed, I jumped into a lake and almost had a heart attack. So cold baths you don't really need to pay for, but it's there if you want to go to a specialist cold bath house, which there are many of those around Sweden. Whilst you're there, you can probably get a massage, and you can subsidise that as well. Quitting smoking was really good to see on there. That's nice, because that is indeed wellness, and people do need help to do that. However, you can't use the allowance to actually pay for products. It's only for actually attending classes, for example, to help you to stop smoking. Ice skating is another one that in winter everybody's doing here. Now, if you want to pay to access an indoor ice skating rink, then you can use the allowance for it, which is really nice. As is skiing, cross-country, downhill, that's really good to see. I love skiing. I assume that you can therefore use this towards the ski pass, but I'm not really sure. And there's not really a lot of detail on each activity on the Skatteverket website. So if in doubt, probably speak to your employer's payroll department or phone Skatteverket themselves, although they probably won't know either. And finally, another interesting one is Zumba. So if you fancy shaking your booty, you can do a bit of that and fund that under the wellness allowance. Now, some of them on this list are also marked as no, so the list is not just those you can, but those you cannot. I'm interested to see that bridge is not permitted, a harmless social board game activity which is not allowed, as is no esports. Esports can be very calming. It can be a really, really good modern escape from the workplace. So I think very disappointing to see that that's not permitted. An interesting one as well is sportfiske is permitted, but fiske is not. So sports fishing is, but general fishing is not. Quite strange. I don't know why. I suppose in sports fishing, do you throw the fish back, but in regular fishing you don't, you eat them? That's wellness. Fish is good for you. No hunting. I'm glad to see that. We shouldn't be funding that as taxpayers of this country, in my opinion. And another interesting one, no choral singing. So if you want to go and join a choir outside of the workplace, you can't use the wellness allowance towards that, unless it's choral singing in the workplace, in which case that's permitted, which I think is quite strange. But anyway, the other nice thing about this benefit, this allowance, is that for those of you who are struggling to make friends and get out there in Sweden, looking through that list will probably give you a lot of ideas for activities that you could start getting involved in and meeting people. So if you are interested in adventuring out and pushing the boundaries of your social risk, I don't know, then have a look through that list, and if you see anything interesting, search locally, and I guarantee you'll find some local clubs and you'll find some people there that will probably be sociable and want to be your friend. Anyway, that's FREDAG, that's the wellness allowance. As I said, there's a link in the video description to the activities that you're allowed to and not to claim for. But firstly, do check with your employer. Not all of them offer it, and they offer varying degrees. So I think my employer offers 2,000 krona per year, which is still very generous. Really, really good. Have a lovely weekend, folks. Hopefully this was useful. Hit that subscribe button below, and we'll see you on Monday.